Okay, I'm going to finish up dealing with showing you a little bit about the string class. So a string, as I alluded to earlier, is a combination of symbols, be they letters, numbers, and some symbols. So if I did that, notice it's separated in quotation marks. That would be a string. Okay, so strings are not primitive. They're actually objects made from a class. So we'll learn about that later. But just remember, int, double, boolean, those are primitive. String is not. Okay. So in the string class, there are different methods that we could run on string. So we'll learn about methods on the very first day of class when we start with Carol Robot. You'll run methods on the robot. So just to give you an illustration of what some of these things do. So first of all, it's important to realize that a string is indexed. So by indexed, I mean each one of these characters has an index. Okay, and what's extremely important is to remember that the first index is always 0. So that C right there is index 0. So if we did, and the other thing is, let me shorten this a little bit. Let's just go computer. So I got the string computer. So if I did str.substring, let's say 1 to 3. So substring is part of a string. So it's part of this string. This is a string calling this method. So as I said before, 0 is the first index. So 1 is actually O, 2 is M, 3 is P. But the thing about this substring method, and we'll learn why later in the year, but the upper bound is not included. So really this is the string that goes from index 1 to index 2. Okay, it's like kind of like the cursor stops at 3, but it doesn't include it. Okay, so this should just be OM. And let's try that. Let me show you that. Alright, let's try it. Alright, there's OM. So that's the first substring method. Now you'll learn a term in the first unit when we deal with Carol Robot, something called an overloaded method. An overloaded method means there's two methods that come from the same class that have the same name, substring in this case, but the parameters that they take in are different. So let's do 3. So the parameters for this last method was 2 integers. The parameters for this method is 1 integer. Okay, so you may think that that would give you the index at 3, which would be 0, 1, 2, that would be P. And in fact, that's a common mistake is people make, is thinking that this second substring will give you that. Okay, so what you have, let's see what actually happens. It gives us puter, P-U-T-E-R. Okay, so it actually gives you everything starting at index 3 and on. Okay, so that's what the second substring does. Now, if I wanted to get P by itself, I will need to do the first substring method, where I give it an a lower bound and an upper bound, but I would need to do 3, 4, because 4 is not included. So if I want a single character, they'll just be separated by 1 value. So 3 to 4 would give me the third character, or the character at index 3, which is actually the fourth character, which is P. Okay? And that's what it did. So those are the very 2 most important string methods, I would say, are substring, the 2 overloaded substring methods. To show you a few more, this one's pretty easy. So this method is called length. And length, notice it didn't have to take any parameters. So I don't have to tell it, hey, give me the substring between 3 and 4. I just want the length of the string, so I don't need to give it any more information. So it's going to tell me the length. Now, the length is a kind of like a distance, right? It's not the index of the last character. It's the number of characters. So like when you count them, they start at 1. So C, so that would be 0 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not 7, but 8. There are 8 characters. Okay, so while indices start at 0, anything dealing with indices start at 0. Length is just going to tell you how many characters there are, which is 8. Okay, and then the last, or 2 more, str.index of. So now if you think about the word index of coming from this string, it wants to give me back the index of, and so I need to give it some string. So it's kind of like the opposite of substring, where you give it the indices and it gives you the part of the string. Now I'm going to give it part of a string, and it will give me back the index. So I actually pass a string to index of. So let me put, okay, and that recognizes put as in, and it will give you the index where it starts, which would be 3. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3. That would print out 3. That's how index of works. Okay. And something that's actually extremely important, very easy, but a lot of times my students have forgotten it in the past, is this idea. So because a lot of times, one thing we do in this class is try to search strings for keywords. So we'll do a lab called Chatbot, where we're actually trying to do kind of what Siri does in a much smaller form, but that is to respond to a text. And well, essentially what we're looking for is keywords like this. So the good part about this would say, you know, well, PUTH is never in there. So we can realize that by saying that's -1. So that's what substring gives back, which is called returns, if it's not in the string, which is very useful if we're searching a string for some like keyword, right? If it's not in there at all, it gives us back -1. So those are the string methods, substring, length, and index of. There's more, but I'll leave it there for those 3 methods. So you need to know both the substrings, length, index of, and yeah, I'll leave it there. So again, go back and look at the first video. You have the 3 primitive types: ints, doubles, booleans. You need to know some integer operations like the modulus, how integer division works, how it works with integers corresponding with doubles, and then some basic Boolean operations like and, or, and not. Okay, and then along with these 4 string methods, the 2 substrings, length, and index of. So if you have questions about the video, you can email me. I'll check it when it gets closer to time to start back school. Otherwise, I'll see you on the first day.